Thank you for staying with us. The deadline for the 4 remaining states to submit the report on establishing state police has expired. It expired yesterday, Monday, the 9th of September. Now, this follows a National Economic Council meeting chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, where Oyo State's acting governor, Bayo Lawal, reviewed the outstanding reports. The council warned of consequences for non-compliant states. Recall that President Bola Tinubu endorsed state policing in February as proposed by state governors to tackle Nigeria's rising insecurity. Joining us from our Abuja studio is Commodore Abimbola Ayuba, retired, an international security risk management consultant, to talk about this critical matter of state policing and why a few states might want to not be a part of this policy or process. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica. Thank you for having me.
All right. The National Executive Council has said that there are 4 states that have not submitted their reports. Recall that sometime early this year or last, the president said that he was giving his nod to state policing and that states should key into it, and reports were expected. A lot of Nigerians expected that a majority of these states will rush to, submit their reports, knowing that we have myriad of security issues bedeviling the country as it is, and that it has been said that this is the way to go. But here we are, some states are seemingly not submitting their report. From your perspective, is this something that a state should stay away from?
Thank you very much, Veronica. Any state that has the interest of its citizenry and also of national security at heart should not shy away from joining in the efforts, aggregate or collective effort to emplace state policing in Nigeria. Having said that, as I perceive that even in the formation of our present federation, we still have issues with states that have been created, and most of these states have unequal capacities in terms of human capacity building and also in terms of relationships, power relationships between the state government level and also the federal government. So, and since every politics and every issue concerning security is local, it will be important to advocate and encourage these states that are sluggers in this very noble effort to come up with their reports. Otherwise, what will happen is that they will stall this noble plan until something of greater magnitude shows up within the national landscape, and the interest to create state policing in Nigeria would then dampen, or it will be consigned to the annals of history. So I believe that the Governors Forum should do more to speak to its members. And if there are lack of capacity in this particular erring states, I think what can happen is for the Governors Forum to also bring up some experts or consultants to support these states. And of course, I think that there's this issue of mutual suspicion, and of course, there are probably invisible hands that are manipulating these states to stall or even withdraw from this noble idea.
Well, I like the fact that you brought that up, and we would need you to expatiate on the matter of trust and suspicion that you mentioned, and the matter of invisible hands behind the scene who might be manipulating the states from wanting to be a part of this noble policy being put in place by the government. How do you mean? What could that be? What is their interest? What are they trying to protect? These are the questions one would like to hear you answer.
Thank you very much, Veronica. It's all about self-survival among some political members of the political class. And as we are aware, all these states don't, the governors don't come from the same political party. So sometimes if the ruling party is going to be in a win-win situation on this, those opposition parties will do all to scuttle the plans of the ruling party. But what is important is that of consensus building, because as it were, there is a lot of trust deficit, even generally in our national life. And of course, this issue of mutual suspicion is always rearing its head at times when critical national decisions are about to be taken or are being considered in the best interests of the security and welfare of the citizenry of Nigeria, which indeed is prescribed as the primary purpose of governance in Nigeria.
Well, this is coming at a time where there's been a lot of advocacy about the need to, decentralize power from the center to the state itself. Should this be up for question in the first place? And there are also concerns about the financial weight that this would have on the federal government. Are these, things that should be considered?
Well, thank you very much, Veronica. The issue of financial burden is a normal consideration, and that, of course, if we have to create state policies, the burden of funding will primarily be upon those states that have chosen to adopt the state policing model. Notwithstanding, it is very clear that even as of today, that how the federal government shares its revenue across the 3 tiers of government. And of course, if we are really serious about protecting the citizenry, and policing should be allowed to go as far as the world levels. And of course, there is a way to reallocate resources for this. Well, all states are not equally matched, but of course, it is not also compulsory for all the states to adopt the same model of policing, because of course the inherent threats within each of the state boundaries are quite different. Even as we speak of insecurity, you can actually break it down and say that, okay, in the Northwest, these are the peculiar crimes that are common in the Northwest. And so, for instance, in the Southeast, these are the peculiar crime. So it is therefore easy for each state to establish its own police and train, educate, and empower its own state police in line with its peculiar needs. And that is where I think that funding should not be. There's a lot of money that have been shared in this country, to the extent that sometimes when the anti-corruption agencies spring into action, you are amazed how easy it is for public officials to access and siphon public funds in such huge, humongous amount of money from state coffers. So if all we need to do is to all agree that we need this state police so that our state policing system, so that we take off the burden of, from the federal police, so that the federal police itself can concentrate on crimes that are national and international in nature. There is no need holding on to a dying horse. It is better we build new stables so that policing can be extended to a regional level. And of course, we advocate for phasing out of the Nigeria police. That would be foolhardy. But of course, there's always a nexus for cooperation and of course for sharing information, intelligence, and of course ensuring that that objective of that has been enshrined in the Constitution, we say that security and welfare of Nigerian citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. Anything that deviates from it, whether at local government, state or federal government level, is deviating from the constitutional provisions. And this must be made clear to all those who intend to slow down this process or think they can scuttle the program process by not cooperating. Thank you, Veronica.
Right. Now, I'm taking you back to something you mentioned earlier, talking about the matter of mutual suspicion and trust again. And recall that about some weeks ago, the Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was at an MBA conference, the recently concluded MBA conference, where she talked about some politicians weaponizing security to bring down some other persons or to make certain persons look not good, so to speak. Is that what you are also laying credence to, that there are persons who are weaponizing or politicizing the matters of security or insecurity as it is, and using it against government because they have a responsibility to their people? Shouldn't the people be at the heart of whatever decision that people in power should make? That's a question on the one hand. On the other hand, we're speaking about the matters of funding and how it is that it's important that states adopt certain structures that are peculiar to their peculiarities or that can fit into their peculiarities. Do we have the personnel and other resources necessary for what we need to deliver on the matters of state policing as it is?
Thank you very much, Veronica. Your questions are hydra-headed. I'll try to do this by, first of all, looking at the issue of weaponizing the police against the citizenry or perhaps even against political opponents. You see, in every system, in every situation, in every condition, there are pros and cons, there are advantages and disadvantages, which also indicates that in a very good analysis of any situation, you will look at the pros and cons of establishing state policing. State policing, fine, we bring security closer to the people. It will also help in localizing policing to the extent that the response time for crimes, even community conflicts will be reduced. However, what is necessary in every system is that ab initio, legislating in an attempt to legislate for state policing, there must be due consideration given to the issue of control and supervision. And of course, since security state policing is layered, there must be clear lines of control. And of course, the state assemblies as well as the National Assembly will need to also live up to its own responsibilities, so that there will be provisions for it to conduct hearings, town hall meetings with people, and also create safety valves that will bring any erring governor or any abuses will definitely be sanctioned. One of it is that, of course, that there will be no immunity, for instance, for any governor that uses the state police to perpetrate crimes against humanity or crimes that impinge on human rights of people living within its state borders. So what it also means, it interrogates the quality and character of leadership that we will need to throw up in moving forward in Nigeria. We must begin to look for square pegs to fit into square holes, and move away from this domain of nepotism and sometimes crass interests, which of course will not help Nigeria and has been in a bane of Nigeria's national development. But now that there's a will to do this, I think we need to take advantage of it, and that comes to the proper issue of funding. The issue of funding is quite crucial, and we must recognize that all the states are not equally endowed or empowered. But strictly speaking, and also in answering to your question about manpower, Nigeria has a population, only God knows how many we are, but at least we are working on the assumptions that we are above 200 million people, of which it is reported that over 50% of the populace are of youth and unemployable, of employable age and youth population. So I think that there is enough spawning ground for recruitments, and of course we keep talking about unemployment. We keep talking about need to keep the youth population engaged. So all we need to do, if you look at a state model like that of Lagos, of course there are people being employed into LASMA, there are people who are employed into Neighborhood Watch, and of course if you go to Kano, you see the Hisba, you see this force that looks like LASMA, always dressed in yellow. And some other states too have adopted that model. This provides employment, and they also perform quasi-security duties. So all we need to do is to harmonize, legislate, and also ensure that funding is available. If you look at the Lagos model, the Security Trust Fund has been there for quite a long time, and honestly, if it's working in Lagos, fine. Lagos is a mega city, but every state can choose its own model according to its security needs and requirements. So I don't see any reason why we should be afraid to allow state policing efforts to move on, even as the bill is still lying somewhere in the National Assembly. I believe with better advocacy and also with better trust and confidence building, and we need to keep putting this issue in the front burner as TVC has been doing in the last couple of years, to bring this discourse to the front burner, so that people of various interests and professions can speak into the dynamics of it. And by and large, everybody will begin to understand and build better confidence in that system. And that a journey of 1,000 years is said to begin with a step. Veronica.
From the issue of trust that you've also mentioned, I would like to stay on that. Having a state police that is funded by the state government itself, of course, whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. Like you have also mentioned, some of these factors should be, considered in the legislation. But I'm very interested in how the federal police and the state police are likely to work, especially when you look at the trust deficits that Nigerians, to an extent, have in the Nigerian police.
Thank you very much. I believe, Alamide, we must also allude to the fact that there is need for this aspect of confidence building to. So I hope I heard you very well on that question.
Very correct.
Yes, it's important that we reduce trust deficit by more positive engagement on this subject matter. And also, we also believe that as a nation, on every level of governance, like I said, all politics are local. It begins from the traditional rulers, which I believe that we must bring into the discourse. Even in drawing the architecture of the new state police, we must have a lot of public engagements and also ensure that the traditional rulers, who indeed are the custodians of both culture and understand their own environment, and also traditionally have their own security architecture, should be brought into this discourse. Once everybody speaks into this concept and everybody hears his view in public hearings, in the National Assembly, in the state assemblies, in the local government legislatures, bring in interest groups. Everybody establishes his own views and fears. So when all these are aggregated, I think all we need are issues is to just to warehouse and cherry pick these issues and prioritize them. Which ones should be coming up first, which one should come in later, and which one can wait. So it's about time we do something crucial to deal with our security situation. As you see, things are becoming terrible. And you read of bandits going into hospitals. You can imagine how gory that story is. People who are already dying, you pick them up to do what? And they are unchallenged. The reports I read, the people came in, they were unchallenged. Although they came in for something else, and they decided to go with a different price. In a country where there is law, in a country where there should be good policing arrangement, it's a shame.
All right. It's a very sad development, it must be said. But we must thank you, Commodore Abimbola Ayuba, retired, for your time on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Veronica.